What up, what up? You're listening to Nate's Notes, the bonus episode. This is the final bonus episode of season 1 of Nate's Notes. Yep, I did a lot of voice stuff there. All right, so I'm Nate Jones. With me, as always, is my co-host, Griffin Schuler. How are you doing today,
Hola,
Griffin?
senor. Oh, I beat you to the punch again like the Kool-Aid man. I'm doing great. I was in a Spanish mood just now.
That's
My
great.
diversity and in language is just absolutely the worst. That's all I know. Yeah.
Do you know any other languages?
Bonjour.
Okay. Yeah, hey, man of the world.
Did that answer your question?
Uh-huh. All right. So, we are Nate's Notes. This is our bonus episode. We usually take a deep dive into pop culture, sports, whatever it is. And this week we're going to do fantasy sports, mostly fantasy football. And the biggest thing we're going to do is we recently drafted teams. We're both in more than one league. And so we're going to take a look at our teams, kind of how they stack up, and just kind of have a conversation about that and the just fantasy sports in general. And yeah, so we're going to get started. Do you want to start with your team or do you want me to start with my team?
I say we just go like our first picks to our second picks.
Okay.
If that's possible. I might have to try and find
Right.
my draft recap or just try and remember
Yeah.
off the top of my head. But I think we should take the time to explain that we're both in 10-person leagues.
Yep.
And I had the first overall pick, and you had the sixth overall pick.
Yep.
Does your league do anything fun to determine the picks, or do you guys just let this website randomize it?
So I'm doing it. One of my coworkers, he's also in the league, and since we work together and no one else in the league, I believe, works with us, at work, we printed out names of everyone and then 1 through 10. So we'd pick a name, then a number, and that's how we did it. So it wasn't like super fun, but we didn't just let the website automate it. We kind of did it ourselves there.
Okay. Yeah, the league that I'm in, the way we did it last season is the same way we did it this season. One of the guys has Madden '07 on the GameCube, and we, based off of last year's standings, determined the order of us picking NFL teams on Madden '07, and then we just do like a simulated tournament where it's just the computer versus the computer. Nobody's playing, and we see how that goes. And so I ended up winning the first overall. Shout out to the Ravens. Shout out to Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and all those guys. So yeah, I found our draft results. So yeah, are you able to go pick by pick, kind of with
Yep.
who you got?
Yeah, I got pick by pick. So if you want to go with who you took number 1 overall in your fantasy football league.
Sure. So I always like to try and take a running back first, depending on who's available.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the toughest. I think that's the most thin position there is, especially this season. I think like the top 3 guys are way above everyone else.
Yeah.
So I actually went with Christian McCaffrey
Okay.
as my first pick. As the first pick overall over Saquon.
That's a good pick.
We'll see if that doesn't work out for me.
Right. In my league, number 1 overall was Alvin Kamara
Okay.
from
Yep.
New Orleans. So we went running back too. So I had the number 6 pick, and with the 6th pick, I took Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver from Cleveland.
So you took Odell as your first round pick
Yes.
at number 6.
Yep.
Nate, this might hurt a little bit, but I got Odell Beckham Jr. with my second round pick at the number 20 spot,
Jeez.
20th overall.
Wow.
I do not know how he was still left there by the time I got back around to pick. I
Yeah.
was very happy when he was. I actually had to Google search to see if anything was wrong with him because I was so shocked that he was still there.
Yep.
But yeah, nothing's wrong. He's got a better quarterback throwing to him,
Right.
and a more exciting upside. I think he's happy actually with being in Cleveland.
Yeah, he looks very happy.
I do have to explain this because it's just too funny to not let the whole world know. All millions of listeners that listen to this. But one of the guys in our league I guess, even though this is like his third year doing this, just doesn't understand fantasy football.
Uh-huh.
And he picked Derrick Henry with the 9th overall pick in the first round. So I think, yes, go ahead and laugh. He deserves it. I think that allowed me to have Odell there, but
Right.
still, just because of that one pick, I'm surprised he didn't get picked up. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, wow. All right. So your second pick was Odell?
yep,
Okay. My second, I went with the running back. I grabbed Nick Chubb from Cleveland. So slowly I was becoming the Cleveland Browns. No, I believe that's my last Brown I have on my team. Yeah. Nick Chubb, grabbed him there in the second round. I think he should have a breakout this year. As long as the offense does as well as we think they should, he'll get more opportunities to run the ball. And those flashes we saw last year will turn into a long, great, sustainable season. So I think that's why I liked him as my running back. So I feel like he's a solid second pick.
yeah, I think he is a solid second pick. Looks like he went in the third round in my draft, but I still think he's going to be, in that second tier of running backs for the season.
Right.
So I, in the third round, again, the 21st overall pick, chose Damian Williams,
Okay.
the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
The only reason I don't even remember watching him at the end of last season after Hunt was banned. So
Yep.
I just picked him up because it's going to be like his real first chance to impress. And if there's one thing historically in fantasy football, it's that rookie running backs or first-year running backs do very well. So I hope that trend continues.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty solid pick there. Now, my next pick, I feel like I'm going to get roasted a bit for it. So this is my third overall pick in the third round. I thought it was the fourth, but it was actually the third. I selected the running back from Denver, Philip Lindsay. I so I was in the car doing this, and I asked my girlfriend Kelsey, I was like, should I get Philip Lindsay now or wait? Because I had this fear he was going to go soon. He probably wasn't, because he was way down the chart of like projected, so people weren't really looking at him yet. But I was worried because I wanted him on my team because he's my favorite player right now. And she's like, take him now. And then I was like, okay, I took it. And she's like, wait, what round is it? And I said third. And my girlfriend, who does not follow football super well, made fun of me for taking him in the third round. So that was kind of a sign that this draft was not going to be the best for me, but I'm still proud of that choice. Maybe 7th or 8th round I would have liked a little more, but third round is pretty solid for me.
That's way too early to draft him, but I do think he went like in the 5th round, so you're only a couple of rounds off from where you should have. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people that play fantasy football run into the same dilemma you do, where you have your favorite player and you really want him to be on your team so that you can cheer for him throughout the year for two reasons.
Right.
And when he does well, you do well, kind of thing.
Yep, it's the best
so,
thing.
like,
yeah.
I don't think a lot of people, I think a lot of people can relate to you in drafting someone probably too early that's on their favorite team and is one of their favorite players, just to have that sense of like, yeah, I get to cheer for you twice. Like,
right.
So, I can respect the pick.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So moving on into the 4th round, I picked up Josh Jacobs for the running back. That's the rookie from Alabama, drafted by the Oakland Raiders, and should be their starting running back this season. Again, same reasoning as last time. Rookie running backs, first-year running backs, just seem to do very well historically. So I'm hoping for the same.
Yeah, that's a great pick. He went in the 3rd round in my league, so kind of a steal there in the 4th. I went wide receivers. I wanted a solid wide receiving core, so I continued that with LA Rams, Brandon Cooks. I think he's going to have a solid year. I think whenever there's a good quarterback, no matter how good of a wide receiver you are, you're going to get catches for the most part. He had a pretty good season last year, and I think that only continues this year. So I was pretty proud of this one in round 4.
That's a solid pick. That's round 4 is where he went in my draft as well. And
Okay.
the only reason I besides him already being taken by the time I could draft him. The only reason I probably would not have taken him is because of the wide receiver core the Rams have.
Right.
It's just going to, like, the reps and stuff are going to be spread out pretty evenly,
Yep.
I think, between Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. And I think there might even be one more guy I can't think of at the moment that's pretty solid for them.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
right.
but that's not a bad pick at all.
No, not.
Moving on to round 5.
right.
I went wide receiver because at this point I already had 3 running backs in a 2 running back league.
Okay.
So I picked up Tyler Boyd,
Okay.
the wide receiver for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be really solid this year, especially with A.J. Green going to be injured for the first 6 to 8 weeks, I think is what I heard.
Yep.
So he's going to be like their number 1 guy. So drafting a number 1 wide receiver, getting thrown to by Andy Dalton, who's, pretty decent. I think he was a steal in the 5th round.
Yeah, I think you are right as well. So in this round for me, I went quarterback because quarterbacks started disappearing all of a sudden. And so I don't know if this happens to you in your league, but whenever one quarterback goes, all of them start to go just because people are panicked. And
Yeah.
that is what happened here. I believe the first quarterback drafted in our league, I'm trying to see who.
Probably Mahomes.
It was actually Mayfield. Mayfield was taken first, then Mahomes, and then
Really?
yeah, and I believe I was the third person to pick up a quarterback in Deshaun Watson. So that's who I selected as my number 1 quarterback, and then right after me was Aaron Rodgers was selected. So I was kind of surprised Mayfield before Mahomes, but that is what happened.
That's too much of a reach, I think, and obviously it was before the 5th round, so. Yeah, that's kind of a stretch, but I think people that play fantasy football understand what you said by when one quarterback goes, they kind of all start to go. I think
Yep.
the same could be said about tight ends and defenses
Right.
and stuff. I went wide receiver, you went quarterback. I actually ended up with Deshaun Watson as well. I'm not sure what round we'll get there in a second, but yeah, luckily Mahomes went pretty early in the 2nd round,
Yep.
but Deshaun Watson, I think, is ranked as the number 2 quarterback, and I was able to snag him either the 6th or 7th round, I'm pretty sure.
That's great.
One thing I'm curious about is where did Melvin Gordon get drafted in your draft? Mine was right after I selected Tyler Boyd. He went 42nd overall in the 5th round.
Yeah, let me take a look real quick.
While he's researching that, I'll go ahead and keep going along. And oh yeah, it looks like the 6th round is where I got Deshaun Watson. He was my next pick.
Okay.
So we pretty close there.
Yeah, with my next pick, I went wide receiver. And this to me is my steal, but this could really bite me in the butt. But I selected Josh Gordon in that 6th round. So yeah, like it might not be the best pick in the world, but I think he's going to have a great season. If he can stay healthy and on the team all season with Tom Brady as his quarterback, yeah, I think he'll have a very good season.
I think he's a great player, and I think he's got tremendous upside, especially from a fantasy perspective. 6th round is not bad for him. It's just he has a lot of risk attached to him because of the last 2 years. I think we both hope he has a successful season this season. I don't like to draft people with risk attached to them for fantasy football.
Yeah.
So I stayed away from him, and
Okay.
I was never going to pick him up, but I don't think that's a bad pick.
Yeah, it felt solid in the moment, so I'm still trying to find Melvin Gordon. Oh, he was taken in the 4th round, 10th pick in the 4th round.
Okay. That's, he's, again, lots of risk attached to Melvin Gordon, has tremendous upside. If he plays and he does as good as he does last season, or even just as close to what he did last season, that's great value for picking him up in the 4th round or
Right.
6th round.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
yeah, I've just found it curious to see where he's going.
All right.
So my 7th round, I needed another wide receiver. I play in a league where we start 3 wide receivers.
Yep.
And Calvin Ridley is kind of who I picked up.
Ooh, that's a
And
good
now,
one.
You say that, and I think out of everyone on my team, he's the one person I'm like, I think I drafted him like too early, or like
Huh.
I think maybe I could have went with someone else at this point. Because I really don't know how he's going to do this season, and he could prove to be outstanding, but I don't have as much hope for him as I do with some other guys. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So that was your seventh round pick.
Correct.
All right. So you mentioned earlier, just like with quarterbacks, when tight ends start going, you
Yep.
you have to start picking up tight end. I got Hunter Henry. I think every tight end I wanted would just got picked right before me. So I don't know much about Hunter
Yeah.
Henry. Plays for the LA Chargers. He was the highest rated tight end left. When I was drafting, I was like, I just need to pick up a tight end, and we'll see how this goes. So Hunter Henry was my pick in the seventh round.
All right. That's funny because I just talked about how I kind of regretted drafting Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
The person I was thinking about picking up instead was Hunter Henry.
Oh, wow.
Because I needed a tight end, and
Yeah.
again, all of the good tight ends had.
Yep.
From what I heard, he's gonna be good this season.
Okay.
He's gonna get a big share of targets
Yeah.
that are lost from Antonio Gates, and their other tight end I think got hurt.
Yep.
Antonio Gates I think is retired. I don't know if he retired or
Yeah.
he's just not going to be a starter, but you should get some decent returns out of Hunter Henry. So not a bad pick at all. If I could go back and change my pick, I would have picked up Hunter Henry
Okay.
in the seventh round instead of Calvin Ridley. So yeah. Moving on to the eighth round. Let's see, I was able to snag Austin Eckler for the Chargers. I think he's going to be the starter this season because I don't think Melvin Gordon's going to end up coming to a deal or he's going to get traded out.
Okay.
So I felt like I got a pretty good pickup here with a starting running back in the eighth round.
Okay. I want to go back to your Calvin Ridley because I was trying to see where he ended up because you thought you picked him way too early. He was picked as the ninth pick in the fourth round in my league. So I think you
wow.
may have gotten a steal there technically. So
We'll see. I remember. So the reason I think I picked him too early is because of my memory of him last season.
okay.
I actually picked Calvin Ridley with my last overall pick last season.
Oh wow.
And I think I ended up dropping him before
Okay.
week 2, just trying to get other guys off the waivers that had already had a good week 1. Only for Calvin Ridley to end up scoring like 40 points in week 3 or something like that. So obviously he's got the potential to score lots of points.
Right.
I have a bad taste in my mouth because I got rid of him a little bit too early last
Yep.
season. After what would have been an absolute steal with my quote unquote Mr. Irrelevant pick.
Yep.
So that's why I don't have good memories attached to him.
Okay.
So we'll see how that one pans out. But
Yeah.
Austin Eckler in the 8th round. I wanted Duke Johnson Jr., but it was one of those cases where he got picked up right before it was my turn. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So in round 8, I went with Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver from the Broncos, 5th pick in round 8. I thought he did great. In the preseason game he had, he looks really healthy. He tore his Achilles last year. He's coming back from it. That can be a really tough injury to come back from. I felt like he was a steal. To me, he's still like a first 4th-round wide receiver, and I know you have him on your team and you have not drafted him yet, so you really got him late. But yeah, I thought it was a little bit of steal. Like round 8, I was like, how's he still on the board here? I'm really excited, and I'm going to mostly use him in my flex position because the Broncos offense, they use him a lot in running plays and a lot of like flea flickers and stuff like that. So he's going to get some interesting points there as well. So I'm excited to see what he ends up doing this season. And if he has a full healthy season, I think he's going to be a big point getter for my team.
I absolutely agree with you, and you already alluded to the fact that I drafted him.
Yep.
I drafted him for the same reason. I think not only is he a great player, but he's a great fantasy player.
Right.
I think anybody that plays fantasy football and is good at it understands what that means.
Yep.
There's players that are obviously very key to their teams, but then there's players that just have great stats and are involved in touchdowns.
Yep.
And he's one of those guys. And I think I heard a little bit of hype that he's looking fully healthy, back to his great self. So I'll get there when I get there. Actually, I'll just talk about it right now. I drafted him in the 10th round. So
Okay.
I drafted Will Fuller in the 9th round.
Okay.
Again, another wide receiver. He had a great season last season before he tore his ACL. I'm hoping. I just realized I drafted Will Fuller and Emmanuel Sanders back-to-back, who both tore their ACLs last year.
Okay.
So, but ironically, funny enough, when I drafted Emmanuel Sanders in the 10th, you know how you get like the draft recaps back?
Yeah.
It said that like I did really well overall, and that except for drafting Emmanuel Sanders in the 10th, it said I stretched for that one.
Okay.
I took him too early. So I thought that's kind of funny that you took him in the 8th and I took him in the 10th, and the 10th was still technically too early.
Huh. Okay.
But I really wanted him, so that was my 9th and 10th picks.
Nice. So my 9th pick was Dak Prescott. Got a quarterback there.
Oh, gross. I just threw up a little bit.
I think he's a good point getter, and he's a backup quarterback. But if if Deshaun is ever struggling, I think he's a good, solid second quarterback pick there. Where did Jared Goff end up in your league?
Jared Goff. Let's see. Oh, the 10th round.
Okay. See, I thought that he late in the 9th is when he went in our league, and I thought that was late, but apparently not.
I think his ranking this season for where he's put onto the websites and stuff for when to get drafted is very low for being like top 3 quarterback last season for fantasy. So I see why you think that being drafted 9th or 10th round is very late for him, because he scored a lot of points last season. But I think that's just a result of him being ranked QB 15 or whatever on like the quote unquote professional analysts for fantasy.
Yeah.
So, 11th round, I picked up the Chicago Bears defense.
Okay.
I kind of kicked off everyone picking defenses. For whatever reason, I like to try and get a good defense before everyone else does.
Okay.
I just didn't think there's much value left at this point in the draft, for the 11th round. So I'd rather get a number 1 defense than a person that may or may not be good on my team.
Yeah.
Might get dropped. So.
Yeah. So from round 10 on, I was drafting replacements or bench players. And what I did a really poor job of in the original draft is basically almost all of my starting lineup had similar bye weeks. So I had 4 players who had bye weeks in week 10. I had 4 players with bye weeks in week 7. And so that made me really nervous. So basically what I was doing is doing best value with a good bye week. So not a lot of these picks are great, but it was more trying to get the best fit. And then I think I'll do some work before the season starts in waivers, trying to find better options here. But wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr. from Detroit is who I picked for wide receiver.
Okay, he's a good pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't he the number 1 receiver for them?
I think so, yeah. But they're not going to be a very good team, so...
Yeah. It's the trade-off, but, if they score points, they'll probably score through him or carry on Johnson, the running back. So
yeah,
I think that's a good pickup. Moving on to the 12th round, if you're in a 10-person league, this is really when it starts to be okay, there's I don't know who else to pick up. Everyone's kind of gone. Everyone's kind of a shot in the dark at this point.
Right.
I ended up needing a tight end by this point.
Okay.
And drafted Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins.
Okay, that's a good pick.
Who I learned right after I drafted him that he is prone to concussions.
Yeah.
Everyone laughed at me he's injured, which is just that happens every year. I think that's happened to at least every single person of drafting that guy that you didn't know all the up-to-date news on. Luckily, I had a pick right after that in the 13th for the 13th round, and I drafted Mark Andrews,
Okay.
tight end for Baltimore. I know nothing about him. I just figured, I was trying to think of wide receivers in Baltimore,
Okay.
and I couldn't think of any. So I was like, maybe that means the tight end will have a good season this season. So, yeah, that was my thought process there for 12 and 13.
Okay. So yeah, round 11, I had Peyton Barber, from Tampa Bay, running back. Jameson Crowder, wide receiver, in round 12, and then in round 13, I grabbed Darwin Thompson, running back from Kansas City. I don't know how long I'll hang on to him, but it was more of he had a good bye week for me.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of worried because I drafted Damian Williams, who in my head was supposed to be the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I just clicked on something earlier today that read that Andy Reid announced him as the starting running back for the season. So I think everyone that picked up Darwin Thompson was hoping he had a chance to steal the job.
Right.
He still does. But as of right now, Damian Williams is the starting running back going into
Okay.
week 1.
Yeah.
So that might give you more incentive to drop him later on.
Yeah.
Moving on to round 14, I picked up Mohamed Sanu. He's somebody the last couple of years that has always gone undrafted and is just always on the waivers. And I'm kind of surprised by that because I remember him being very solid the last 2 seasons where he doesn't score you a lot of points,
Right.
but he always seems to get a touchdown almost every week, or instead of a touchdown, he gets 70 yards, so he ends up getting the same points as 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Just very consistently gets between 7 and 10 points, which is all you could ask for out of a fantasy player.
Right. Yeah. All right. So I had Kenny Stills here.
Okay.
Yeah, and I thought that felt like a steal, but I don't know how much of a steal it ended up being, but it definitely felt like one.
Is he the number 1 receiver in Miami,
I think so.
or number 2?
Yeah, he's 1 or 2.
I don't know if I can't picture him as either the number 1 guy or if a slot receiver.
Yeah, it looks like he's more slot receiver, and he has a minor right leg injury at the moment, but he basically hasn't had a good season in a while, so.
Okay.
You'll
Oh, yeah,
see.
it looks like he went in round 15 for me, so not too far off there.
Right.
All right, we're getting down to some of these bottom picks. So my league only went to 16 rounds, so for round 15, I had to get a kicker, so I chose Kayami Fairbairn, the kicker for the Houston Texans. Wow, that was a mouthful.
So you got a kicker from Houston. Was that your last pick?
That was my second to last pick.
Okay.
He did really well for me last season, so
Nice.
I just decided to go with him again.
Yeah, I finally got defense. I got the Patriots defense, and I get them every couple years. They're usually solid. They're not usually the best defense, but they win a lot of games, so they don't give up a ton of points, usually. So,
You
pretty solid.
that's a really solid pick, and a lot of the mock drafts I didn't take a defense till the very last round.
Yeah.
And they were always still available, and that's definitely who I would have picked up because they're just so well coached.
Right.
Consistently have very good years where they don't allow a lot of points. They're not a prolific fantasy defense because they don't get a lot of turnovers, and that's where you get a majority of your points.
Yep.
But there's also something to be said about a defense that doesn't allow a lot of points and is just very disciplined. And I think the Patriots are one of the best in that regard. So I think you can't go wrong there. You got Stephon Gilmore as a cornerback in that defense who is going to get some interceptions. So, yeah, super solid pick for one of your last rounds.
Yeah.
Was that your last round or
No.
one more?
We had one more, yeah.
One more? Okay, so both had 16 rounds. I ended up having the very last pick of my draft, and I drafted Adam Humphries of Tennessee wide receiver.
Okay. It's a good pick. My last one is obviously I needed a kicker because I haven't selected one yet. Mason Crosby from Green Bay is who I grabbed as my final pick.
Nice. Are you in a league where kickers lose points for missing field goals, or just in a league where they score 0 points
They score
for
0
missing.
points, yeah. If they
Okay.
miss, yeah.
I believe I'm in a league where you get negative points
Yeah.
for missing. And there's no way I was going to draft Mason Crosby knowing that, because I had flashbacks to last season where he missed, I think, 3 or 4 field goals in one game.
Right.
I think he got like negative 12 points for somebody that week.
Jeez. Yeah,
Which is a lot.
I think this league is pretty nice with kickers, mainly because they are mostly Bears fans. And so they have
Okay.
bad history with kickers. Actually, one of the team names is the Double Doinkers. So I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah,
That
so
is funny.
that's my team. That's Griffin's team. So where did NFL.com, did they like predict your finishing? Like what place you're going to finish?
Yeah, so a few hours after the draft, they give you like a draft recap.
Right.
And they kind of tell you like they give you a draft grade, a projected record, and a projected finish.
Yep.
Along with some more analysis. So I got an A- for my draft grade.
Okay.
I'm projected to go 12-1 and then finish first. So NFLFantasy.com thinks I did very well.
Wow.
So we'll see how it goes. I remember, these, you got to take all these with a grain of salt.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
I think last season I was projected to go 8-5 or something. Yeah, 8-5, and I ended up finishing first.
Okay.
Like a record of like 10-3. So yeah, these aren't always accurate, but it gives me a lot of hope going into the beginning of the season.
Yeah, so we're on the opposite spectrum here. I got an F, like a big fat F. It said I reached for almost every single player I drafted, and I am predicted in last place. So hopefully my reaches turn out into good, and yeah, so that's kind of where my team ended up.
Awesome. Well, I think what would be kind of fun to do maybe over the course of our quote-unquote off-season for the podcast, I think we should put our teams next to each other and have the people vote on who drafted a better team.
Right, yeah.
Because I finally might win a poll.
A poll,
yeah. I've lost every single poll you put out so far, so I'm hoping that maybe this one could be my first win.
Yeah.
But maybe we try and figure out a way to have our teams play against each other each week, and we just take the total scores we get each week and see who does a little bit better.
Yeah.
Might be a little tricky because I think I have one more wide receiver than you do, so
Okay, yeah.
I'll have to take out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
we'll
we will.
figure it out when it comes there.
Sweet.
But
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on how our fantasy seasons are going. I draft another team on Friday, so hopefully I now know where I went wrong, and this team will be better. The only problem is this one, there's a pretty big cash prize for this league, so I wish I would have had this one first.
I think that's actually something we should go over, is because my league's kind of different.
Okay.
So go ahead and explain first place, and if there's any sort of repercussions for last place in your current league that you just drafted this team for.
Yeah, so there's no repercussions for last place. But there is a cash prize. So it was a $50 buy-in, with top 3 being paid out, so only top 3 get any cash prizes, and it looks like I have to find the email for sure.
$50, that's going to be quite a good payout.
Yep. So first place $300, second place $150, and third place gets $50. So you get your money back.
Get your money back.
So, yeah, pretty interesting league, and I'm excited, but also nervous because when ESPN thinks I'm going to do terrible, I don't have the highest hopes for the season.
Yeah, well, it's unpredictable. So hopefully you do a little bit better than you're predicted to do.
Yep. Me too. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so for this league I'm in, it's just with 9 other friends, so 10 of us, and not really like a reward for winning.
Okay.
I guess you could kind of say it's a reward, but this is mostly a league you don't want to finish last in.
Okay.
Because the person that finishes last gets a fat head of the winner of that year and has to put it on their wall in their room for an entire year.
Wow.
So
that is incredible.
I finished first in the regular season last season.
Okay.
So I didn't end up being the fathead because I lost my first playoff game.
Okay.
but I like the top 6 people make it into the winner playoffs, and the
Yeah.
bottom 4 people make it into the fathead playoffs. So who's
Okay.
going to get the fathead? And I was so nervous all season last season, and I think Holly, my girlfriend, had enough of me by the 3rd or 4th week because I get so like just ridiculously nervous for each game. And when someone, like one of my players, drops the ball or something like that, I get really mad because I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't have a fathead on my wall this season. Like, there's just so much at stake. And even though I finished first, I think every week was super tense for me. So
I bet. Yeah, that's
yeah, I'm
wow.
gonna try and be better this season.
Yeah.
Better as in a better watcher and
Right.
more calm.
For sure. All right. Well, I think that's it for our fantasy recap of our teams. We'll be sure to make a poll out of this who has the best team in the league or in on the podcast, and then of course throughout our mini off season here, we'll be talking more about our teams and how they're doing, and then it'll be a topic for sure as season 2 starts up for this podcast. I want to thank you guys so much for listening to season 1 of Nate's Notes. This is the last episode of season 1. We appreciate all the listens, engagement that we've had so far. We'll be back in about a month, but if you want the most up-to-date information, make sure to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just look up Notes Nates on that search bar, and you can find us, like us, follow us, subscribe, print us out, put us on your wall. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. And we're also on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher. I don't think we're on SoundCloud. We're on iHeartRadio. Just look us up, Nate's Notes. You should be able to find us, subscribe, and then leave us a review if you'd like. It helps other people find us. We will see you all in the next month or so. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Nate. He's been Griffin. We'll see you next time.